सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारंभं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शंकरं लोकशंकरं पुराण न्याय मीमांसा धर्मशास्त्रांग मिश्रिताः वेदाः स्थानानि विद्यानां धर्मस्य च चतुर्दश आयुर्वेदो धनुर्वेदो गान्धर्वश्चैव ते त्रयः अर्थशास्त्रं चतुर्थन्तु विद्याः अष्टादशैव ताः ओम शांति शांति शांति. Namaste. I welcome everyone who is viewing this video. This video is the second in a series of talks with renowned scholar, Sanskrit scholar Gauri Mahulikar ji. The series is called Emerging Trends in Contemporary Sanskrit Literature. I welcome Dr. Gauri Mahulikar today to proceed with the series and start off with the second talk of this series. Welcome, Dr. Mahulikar.
Thank you so much, and welcome to all the participants who are listening to these talks. There are so many Sanskrit authors, right? I mean, impressed and influenced by Bhasa, Kalidasa, Bhavabhuti, and they started writing in Sanskrit on contemporary matters. Some are biographical literature, some are like small poems, which is a new genre in Sanskrit. And one such poet is Harishchandra Renapurkar. Now, why I want to deal with him particularly is because, he, I feel, is a sort of an unsung hero. He has produced so much of Sanskrit literature, and despite all adverse circumstances in which he was brought up, he came from a very lower middle class family. And during Nizam's rule, where Sanskrit was not at all encouraged, and he had a passion to learn Sanskrit. So his life sketch is also very inspiring. In spite of so many difficulties, sometimes we feel, if the ambience is conducive, then there is no harm if we produce good gems, of literature and author critics. When the circumstances are so adverse, and then somebody producing such a vast literature, I think it's really, really commendable. Mumbai University's Sanskrit department held a seminar, a national seminar in 2008-2009 on emerging trends of Sanskrit literature. And that time we hardly knew that, there exists such an author. Being in the field of Sanskrit for so many years and teaching Sanskrit to students, we hardly knew. One time, on one day, it happened that somebody couriered a set of his books to the departmental library. And that's when I landed up and I said, wow, this is something amazing. I haven't even heard his name. I knew Kshama Rao, I knew Parikshit Sharma, I knew many other Sanskrit scholars who have written, but I never heard of his name. Nowhere. And then this article which I penned down was beyond the scope of the seminar because this was very, very contemporary. So though I didn't present it during the seminar, I wrote a special article on him because I was really amazed to see his contribution. He was born in a farmer's family in 1924 in Latur. Renapur is the name of the village in Latur district of Maharashtra. And Nizam's rule was there, and therefore he did not have any opportunity to learn Sanskrit. Then he went to Aurangabad for his further studies, where he got to know what Sanskrit is. So his life sketch is also that way, very, very impressive, And he has produced some 9 great titles. And in each title, like for example, the first title is Kavyon Meshaha. And this has some 42 poems in that. Kavyon Mesha is the name of one particular text in which there are texts like, Dayananda, Vivekananda Charita, Mahatma Gandhi Charita, Savarkar Charita, Satawalekar, then Indira Gandhi, Lal Bahadur Shastri, Lala Lajpat Rai, so many people, because he has witnessed the freedom struggle, right? Born in 1924. So he is a witness to that. So he has written many such works during that period, because these were all the heroes of Indian people, right? And therefore he has written. So 42 poems in one single title, Kavyonmeshaha. Like that, he has 8 more titles. So 9, like, you say bunch of poems, 9 texts which are bunch of poems. So Kavyonmesha is the first, and then there is this one, Kavya of Kavya Unmesha, okay. Kavyodyanam, this is a garden, Udyanam. This is again a collection of Sanskrit poems in 1980 to 90. 80 to 90. And the poems, they reflect, this is post-independence period, quite late that way, right? And therefore he has reflected upon, deliberated upon many social, political and philosophical issues in this. For example, I will tell you the Golden Temple, the Blue Star operation in Golden Temple, that gets recorded here. So all the contemporary topics, the current topics also get deliberated by him. And the massacre of many Sikh terrorists, that is also a part of that. And he has done it all not as a Mukta Chanda, but in prosodial, in a versification form, like Upajati meter, okay? Upajati is a mixture of Indravajra and Upendravajra. And this was one such poem. Then Swami Dayananda has influenced him to a great extent. Swami Dayananda Saraswati has influenced him. And he has written a tribute to Arya Samaj established by Swami Dayananda in a very, what you can say, a devotional, dedicated manner in some 42 verses in Sanskrit. And that is also in a very big meter called Shardula Vikridita. Very long meter, not a Anushtup or something, so very long meter. And then after the 1992 bomb blast in Mumbai, that is also reflected in his poems. 1992 bomb blast. He has written a poem of 32 verses on that in Mandakranta meter. And this is very, very unique and very, what you can say, thoughtful on the part of the author, because Mandakranta, for that it is said, Pravrut Pravasa Vyasane Mandakranta Prayujjate. Pravrut is rainy season, and that's why we have Meghaduta by Kalidasa composed in Mandakranta, right? Because it reflects the Ashadha Prathama Megha and all that. But Pravrut Pravasa Vyasane, Vyasane is Sankata. So this bomb blast was really a Sankata. It was a calamity on the nation, right? And therefore, the significant use, a thoughtful use of a perfect meter to suit the theme, that is very. Otherwise, some people, because they are fond of some meters, they can go on composing poems in that meter. It is not like that. So when you have a lot of material, to describe, Shardula Vikridita comes to help, because it's a long meter of 18 letters, 19 letters in a line. So 4 lines, right? So when he is giving a glowing tribute to Arya Samaj and Swami Dayananda, he has so many things to express, and therefore Shardula Vikridita. And when he is describing the bomb blast, he is using Mandakranta. So that is very, very thoughtful for about him. That the third Kavya Sangraha is known as Kavya Nishyandaha. Nishyanda is trickling down something. So the poems are trickling down. And this is again a collection of 22 poems. He is basically a poet par excellence. Okay, so 22 poems, and this begins with a poem of 27 verses composed in Shardula Vikridita, glorifying Sanskrit language and the beauty of Sanskrit. So that is very unique for him. I would like to quote something from that. For example, he says, in the notes, etc., I have given that Sevya sa suravak sadaiva manujaihi samsara kalyana krit. This vak, Sanskrita vak, Sevya, she should be served, she should be utilized, this language should be utilized, manujaihi, by all the men, because how she is, how the language is, samsara kalyana krit. She is the Kalyana Krit, beneficial for the whole of the prapancha, for the whole of the universe, the world, you know. So, so this is what he describes here. And Parakashta, on corruption also. It is a Parakashta, especially in the bureaucracy, in the government offices, how this corruption has seeped in and crept up from top to bottom. It is Parakashta. Beyond that, there can't be any corruption. So that also he has described in Bhrashtachara Parakashta. And he says, Sampurna Rashtra Vapushi Pralam Saparpan Dussadhya Durghata Durasada Durnivaraha Bhrashtatvameva Bhavatiha Mahavikaro Deshodhyayena Vinipata Dasham Prapanna. Being a very patriotic, spirited, spirited with that feeling, that Desha Bhakti Rasa, elated by that, he feels so sad that this land, the Suvarna Bhumi of Bharat, which is glorified by so many people for thousands of years, and now what the doom it is facing, Vinipata Dasham Prapannaha Bharata Deshaha, because it has reached Bhrashtatvam, the Parakashta of Bhrashtatvam. So from top to bottom, that corruption should be eradicated, otherwise this land will be doomed, So that is what he speaks of. He has no political ideology per se, because he is enamored by Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He is very much influenced by Vinayak Damodar Savarkar. At the same time, he writes about Jawaharlal Nehru. He writes about Indira Gandhi. So nobody, whatever he feels like writing, he writes. One interesting thing is, for Indira Gandhi, it is not just a Indira Gandhi Charita which he has written. He has written Indira Patana Utthanam. So during the emergency, how her image collapsed, it fell down, but again how she bounced back. Utthanam. So that is something, he is taking note of all current affairs through Sanskrit language, through his poems. So Patanothanam, so for the Ani Bani or the emergency period, he has described it in his verses, in very nice manner, that how during the emergency period, even the good people, the sadhu people, they were jailed, and it is really very saddening and very disheartening. And he says for that, he uses some nice upamas also for that. Okay. One such upama is Akramya Arakshaka Janaganaihi Tavad Eva Avaruddhaha Shenakranta Iva Khagaganaha Needali Shithe. Night, when the Khagaganaha, the birds are during the night, they are sleeping in their nest. If they were to be pounced by the hawks. Similar thing happened when people were sleeping, people were not aware of anything, and they were caught hold of by the police during the emergency period. So this is what he writes about that. So this was his third poem. collection of poems. The fourth is Shraddha Kusumanjalihi. He started a new genre, I should say, of obituaries in Sanskrit. Biographical literature is one thing which he has already taken. Writing on current topics, on such topics where people won't dare to because of some ideologies, because of fear of being caught and this and that. Still, he is outspoken enough to comment on that. And here he writes about Shraddha Kusumanjali, here a unique collection of obituaries composed in Sanskrit. So this is again a unique thing, and he has offered obituary to John F. Kennedy, the President of United States, then Maithili Sharan Gupta, the famous Hindi poet, Shripad Damodar Satavadekar, the freedom fighter, S.K. Belvalkar, the Indologist, K. Munshi, the founder of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, and so many people. So this could serve as a template. How to write obituary in Sanskrit, right? How to write letters in Sanskrit, how to write small poems. So he has created in the poems in all the genres which are not touched by any people so far. He has even, depicted a realistic picture of the devastating tsunami. The tsunami also is portrayed by him. In a very good example of Swabhavokti. Swabhavokti is a speech which gives you a realistic picture of a thing which you can visualize and create a picture of that in front of your mental eyes, right? So that also he has done. Shraddha Kusumanjali was the fourth genre. Then he, being, influenced by Atal Bihari Vajpayee and being a very staunch Hindu, he is very keen on having Rama Mandir at Ayodhya. But there is some vivada, some debate, some controversy regarding that. We are fortunate now to witness the Rama Mandir opening. He was not so fortunate, but he has written one full poem on Rama Mandira Vivadaha. All the pros and the cons, Rama Mandira Vivada, Rama temple. So this is a historical poem, and this is, he has traced back Ram Lalla ki Janmabhoomi from that to Babri Masjid demolition and everything. So he has given, the depiction of all these things. He is a devotee of Rama, but not a blind follower. He is a faithful follower, we can say, not a blind follower. And he has taken efforts to research the details of Rama temple through all the available historical documents which he could lay his hand upon. And he has presented that as an academician would present it. These are the facts, and therefore we want Rama Mandir there. So it's not just out of bhakti that he wants to do it, but so what I say is, he has a discerning mind and analytical buddhi. Buddhi is vyavasayatmika, discerning and distinguishing capacity it has. So he should have been a great professor if some opportunities he could have grabbed, but unfortunately he didn't find any such opportunities during his times. And then, Shaiva and Vaishnava, their fight, that also he has discussed, this thing. And almost 20 such fights were fought. So that also he has given you the number as well. Then there is another thing is, as I mentioned, Indira Patana Utthanam. So the Patana and the Utthana both in Mandakranta again, because it is Vyasana, it is a Sankata, and therefore in Mandakranta meter. That was in 1977, immediately following the emergency period. And then there is Hutatma Shamlal Charitam. We haven't heard of him, but he was a follower of Arya Samaj. Hutatma Shamlal Charita. So this is the Hyderabad freedom movement. He has depicted it as Hyderabad freedom movement because he has witnessed it. And this Hutatma Shamlal was a close contact of Swami Dayananda, and how he fought against the tyrannical rule of the Nizam and suffered the hardships in the prison of Bidar. All this has been depicted in 144 verses. So nothing, comes less than 100 verses. So writing verses is like baएं हाथ का खेल for him. He just goes on writing and writing. And the cruelty of Nizam's rule is vividly picturized and portrayed by him. Then we come to a Dirgha Kavya called Prachina Bharatiya Sanskritiyam. And this is the only work which is available on Amazon. Of Harishchandra Tara Renapurkar's work. No, not Amazon, Exotica India. This is available on Exotica India. And one more thing, when I said he is unsung writer, though he has contributed so greatly in all different genres, so the quality-wise is a lot contribution to him, but he is not much discussed or studied. One option, what Appavada I can get exception is the Calicut University of Calicut. They have scheduled some portion from his Kavya, that is this Prachina Bharatiya Sanskritiyam. It's a long poem, Dirgha Kavya. From that, for one of the semesters for the students for MA, under modern literary compositions in Sanskrit, some portion is prescribed. And recently, after this book was published, the book was published in 2013, right? This book was published in 2013. And now recently, 2021, there has been a PhD research work done on him. And the PhD was submitted to Swami Ramananda Tirtha Marathwada University, Aurangabad, by Ashok Chauhan. It's in Marathi. Kavya Tirtha Pradhyapak Harishchandra Renapurkar यांच्या साहित्य कृतींचे चिकित्सक अध्ययन, an analytical study of all the literary compositions of Kavya Tirtha Professor Harishchandra Renapurkar. So this is one such attempt. Except for these two exceptions, I didn't find anywhere any trace of Renapurkar's literature being studied. And therefore, I am very keen, if I can do some justice through these talks to some such people and some such genres of literature which are not much studied, then it will be really kritarthata for me. So this was the Prachina Bharatiya Sanskritiyam, and this is available on Exotica, and therefore this is discussed. There are 17 cantos, sargas, 17 cantos in this, and 1,500 verses.
Wow.
1,500 verses, a glaring illustration of Indian culture, and all the philosophy of India, this Bharata Bhumi. He has, he has unflinching faith in Indian ethos and the continuity of Indian culture. And that's what, brought this poem, Dirgha Kavya. And then 17 cantos. The epic has foreword by Jayanti Lal Dave of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan and Dr. Devi Prasad Karvandikar, again a very great scholar from Ahmednagar. He used to run a patrika, a periodical called Gunjarava. So I will end by his poem only, a tribute to Renapurkar. So Devi Prasad Karvandikar and Dr. M.D. Paradkar, he was also a great Indologist. So they have also endorsed his poems, and especially this particular poem. And this is not just a Dirgha Kavya according to the poet, but it is the origin and development of Indian culture. So those who want to study Bharatiya Sanskriti in Sanskrit for them, this is like a guide. Origin and development of Indian culture through this great poem. It's a rich expression of lofty and noble thoughts. And this gives you the four Purusharthas, the Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Then the Chatur Ashrama Paddhati, Chatur Varnya Paddhati, all the ritualistic traditions, the Trivarga, all these things, and the Runa concept, everything is given along with the Brahma Tattva and Atma Tattva and different meters, He has now here the scope to exhibit his scholarship and erudition and his knowledge about the Vrittas. So 1500 verses composed in various meters like Vasanta Tilaka, Bhujanga Prayata, Upajati, Kridita, Mandakranta. So, and the Upanishadic discussion of Shreyas and Preyas, which occurs in the Kathopanishad, that also forms a part of this, and how Shreyas has to get an upper hand on Preyas, though Preyas may lure you, captivate you, it is not long lasting. So one should aspire for Preyas. So such lofty messages, Upanishadic messages also given in simple language in Sanskrit. And yeah. And then there is another great kavya. This was the 8th one. The 9th one is Gadya Kavya Kusumanjali. Gadya Kavya Kusumanjali. So all these which we have seen till now are poems.
Right.
All these are poems. After composing almost 20,000 verses through all these 8 collections of poems, some have 22, some have 42, like that, right? So after writing almost 20,000 verses, Harishchandra Renapurkar tried his hand in writing Gadya, that is Sanskrit prose. And the topics in this is a small book, Gadya Kusumanjali. And here he has discussed, there are only 6 passages there, 6 in number, dealing with the need to learn Sanskrit. Again, his passion for Sanskrit comes up. Need to learn Sanskrit, need to learn Vedic literature, ancient Indian education system, the Gurukula system, then the earthquake, Latursa Bhukampa, earthquake in Maharashtra, because he belonged to that area. And therefore, how he really felt, for that. And life and philosophy of Sri Aurobindo, Aurobindo Ghosh, and the historical judgment of the Supreme Court by Judge Kuldeep Singh Hansaria that inclusion of Sanskrit is optional subject in the secondary school syllabus, that is also discussed by him. So very current topics, which normally, the Kavis won't even think of. They would always bask in the memories of the mythical and the Puranic and the historical events, right? Normally we see that because there is a lot more scope to describe so many good things. But here this is a other side of life, but very realistic in nature. So there is nothing I can say which is not touched upon by Harishchandra Renapurkar. So whatever happens, all the time, not good will come in your plate. You have to suffer. You have to be, you get disheartened. You get pessimistic about the whole scenario. And then that also gets reflected. Normally this side, the gray side or the dark side, is not depicted through literature. But when we say that literature is the mirror to the society, I think this is this type of literature which really mirrors the society. Otherwise, depicting only the good, that is only partial depiction. That is only unilateral depiction. Society is never unilateral. It has so many things. There is always turmoil and chaos, and so many things are there. From chaos, you have to build up a cosmos, right? And therefore, his approach, I feel, is very innovative and very different from other poets. So just to give some critical observations on his 9, 10, some 11 native compositions, the general things, the general observations could be like, there are many repetitions in the topics as well. There are many repetitions because when he's writing the Charitra of Jawaharlal Nehru, there will be something from for Indira Gandhi. And again, when he writes about Indira Patanothanam, that will be repeated. So there are so many things. For Arya Samaj also, Shamlal Charitam, Arya Samaj tribute. So there are few repetitions because some of the themes are very close to his heart and therefore he keeps on repeating. Then his love and passion for Sanskrit language are very, very evident through each of his works. Okay. Then another topic very close to his heart is patriotism. He's very patriotic in spirit, and his obsession for the hautatmya, the martyrdom of the freedom fighters, and his concern for national integrity, the nationality, that also bothers him, and the anti-national elements causing the breach in the unity of India, that really bleeds his heart, that really pains him. And he has idolized Subhash Chandra Bose, Indira Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Savarkar, Mahatma Gandhi. So these have different ideologies, sometimes contrasting ideologies, contradictory to each other. But for him as a creative writer, that doesn't become a hindrance, right? Then philosophers and ideologies from one more category of his writing, one more category of his writing, his partial treatment to Swami Dayananda and Arya Samaj is very, very evident because he was brought up in that conditions, and Hindutva is very staunch feeling in him. And in spite of being a dedicated follower of ancient Indian culture, Renapurkar is not a fanatic. He is not a fanatic. On the contrary, he has a wide secular approach and speaks of social reforms also, and eradication of caste system. He has himself practiced it by marrying, having an intercaste marriage to Srimati Satyavati 50 years back, 70 years back. So that was something rebellious during that time, but it was not just preaching, but practicing. So that is again, people speak so many things, but they don't live up to their words. Here is an author who is not just preaching, but living up to that. And then some like stylistic peculiarities, like, the chvi formation. This is a typical grammatical construction in Sanskrit language. Abhuta tadbhave chvihi, it is called. So moghi chakara, chitri kritaha, sandri bhuta, bandi chakre, such, these are very, very kendri bhuta, prakati chikirshuhu. So this sometimes gives, artificiality to the language, but he is very fond of these things. And sometimes he uses cryptic style of the manuscript writers. Normally, the manuscript lekhanika, the scribes, when they, in the colophon, they write about the date in which, or the date or the era in which they wrote the manuscript. They don't write it at Shake 1849 like that. They would write it in a cryptic language. He also writes it that way. I'll give you one example here. I think I have quoted one example. Yeah, let me take you through that example. This is a typical manuscript style. He says, Ekona Vimsha Shatake, that is 19th century. Ekona Vimshaya, 19th century. Rushi Bhuta Varshe. Rushi Bhuta Varshe. Now, Rushis are how many? Saptarshis. So, they are 7. And Bhuta are Panchamaha Bhuta, 5. So, and this is, Rushi will come 7, and Ankanam Vamato Gatihi, and therefore 7 in the units place, 5 in the tens place, so 19, 7. right? So this is what he would give you. Sorry, 1857. Ekonavimshe Shatake, 19th century. So he's talking about the 1857 struggle for freedom. We don't call it mutiny or revolt. It is
Correct.
first struggle for freedom, right? So 1857 Swatantra Yuddha. So 1857, he writes in such a cryptic language. So at the same time, he is aware of how the ancient writers used to write in this enigmatic language, you know. He wants to adopt that also at times. And some things like na vittena tarpaniyaha manushyaha, as in Brahadaranyaka. Similarly, he will say, you know, manujaha tarpaniyaha na vittaihi. Vittena na karma lipyate nare, na karma lipyate nare, from Bhagavad Gita. So some such, that means, you know, his scholarship or his reading again and again, the Swadhyaya. When you do a Swadhyaya, it does get reflected in your works, right? Because those phrases, you ruminate on those, and therefore you use those phrases as well. So some such things are already he has used times. One, you know, for Jawaharlal Nehru's one description, I would like to read one verse, how he praises him, and, you know, he is like this, he is like this. He says, Vakta Brahaspati Samaha. He is a good orator like Brahaspati. Brahaspati, the Purohita or the of the gods, right? Vakta Brahaspati Samo, Varado Yathesho, Varadaha. He is giver of the boon like Isha, like Ishana. Neta Shadanana Samaha. Today is Skanda Shashti, right? Neta Shadanana Samaha. He is a Neta, a leader like Shadanana, Subramanya. Mahaniya Kirtihi, Srashta Chaturmukha Nibhaha. He is a creator like Chaturmukha, Brahma, Chaturasra Vidwan. He is a versatile scholar. Jive Chiram Bata Javahar Lal Dhiman. So let him live long. So his verses are good, very easily understandable. At the same time, they are based on Indian ethos and Indian mythology. If you don't know who Brahaspati is, if you don't know who Shadanana is, how can you relate? How can you compare? Right? So all his similes, etc., are drawn on Indian ethos. Okay. Then I think I should end now. Right? So there are many more, but the book you can read, okay? And
Of
you
course.
can article. There are so many notes also. And I'll end with what Kharvandikar had to say about Renapurkar. This he has also modeled upon Kalidasa's verse. Kharvandikar says, Kaschit kavisyat pratibha samriddha. Some poets, you know, they are intuitive. They have got that. They are blessed with the intuitive power. Vyutpatti ranyasya vishesha yukta. Vyutpatti is training, your education and training. Vyutpatti hi anyasya vishesha yukta. Yatra ubhayam sadhu. Sa satkavinam dhuri pratishtha paitavye eva. So one who is, you know, this is really speaking a debate in the Alankara Shastra, Pratibha, Vyutpatti and Abhyasa. Whether it is only Pratibha which makes a poet or Vyutpatti also makes a poet. So there are contrary views. Some say both are required. So this is a harmonious blending of both. You must be anugrahita, blessed with that intuitive power, and plus you must have the training, and the abhyasa will help you to create and produce more and more good pieces of literature. So kavitvam durlabham loke, but shaktistu ati durlabha. Kavitva is durlabha, but having that shakti to compose, that is by Dandi. Okay, so that shakti, Shaktir Nipunata, as Mammata also says, Shaktir Nipunata Abhyasa. It is the same like Pratibha Vyutpatti Abhyasa. So here Kharvandikar has given a nice tribute to him. One poet praising another poet, that he is the one who has a combination of Vyutpatti as well as Pratibha. So my salutations to Renapurkar, and I am hopeful that in the coming days, people will study more and more of his works, and that will be really, recognizing his intellectual capacity and his scholarship in this world. Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om. Thank you so much, Professor Mahulikar, for sharing your perspectives on Pandit Harishchandra Renapurkar's contributions to Sanskrit. 20,000 verses is no joke.
No.
Plus, you mentioned Gadya literature as well. And finally, I mean, there's so much that you've introduced to, while you also added that there is so much more left of his work that can be explored. I thank you for making time, Professor Mahulikar, to share your views on this topic. And I look forward to hosting the third part or the third video of this fascinating series of conversations with you on emerging trends in contemporary Sanskrit literature. Hari Om and Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.